John and Monica, a successful couple, had been married for 10 years, and they'd been trying to get pregnant for 5 of them. Countless fertility specialists and hormone treatments gave no results, until one day, that stick finally showed that Monica was pregnant. They couldn't be happier. John made sure to take over all the straining tasks in their life so that Monica could get as much rest as possible, as she had a rather demanding job as a legal assistant in a prominent law firm. Finally, the time came. The rhythmic beeps of the heart monitor provided a strange counterpoint to the emotions raging in Monica's heart. 5 years. 5 years of needles, disappointment, and a gnawing emptiness that finally culminated in the tiny miracle nestled in her arms. Ethan, her son. John, her husband, stood beside her, his usually stoic face alight with a wonder that mirrored her own. "He's perfect," John whispered, his voice thick with emotion as he gently traced a fingertip along Ethan's downy cheek. Monica could only nod, tears welling in her eyes. Perfect. That was the only word that could describe this tiny bundle of pink cuteness, this answer to their most fervent prayers. It seemed there were no happier people in the world. 3 days later, they got to take their precious son home. Although Monica did take a leave of absence from work, she knew she would have to head back to the office soon. She wanted to make sure that Ethan was in capable hands while she was away, so she started interviewing nannies right away. Meanwhile, John decided to take precautions of his own and had security cameras installed in most rooms around the house. Since Monica was very anxious as it was, he didn't want to agitate her even more and made sure to do it while she was out of the house. As the date of Monica's return to work was approaching, her mother, Eleanor, came from another state to meet her grandson. She fell in love with the boy immediately, but when she was helping Monica change him, her face changed. "Monica, no," she whispered as she noticed a very specific mole on her grandson's hand. "Mom, don't read anything into it. I know what you're thinking, but it's just a coincidence." Monica started panicking. "Is it, hun? Is it really? When was it that you came to visit me? About 10, 11 months ago? Oh God, Monica, what did you do?" "I didn't mean to, Mom. It just happened. And when I realized that I was pregnant, I thought maybe it was a gift of fate. We couldn't get pregnant for so long, and now we were having a baby, and John didn't need to know the truth. He was so happy. I wanted him to be happy. I wanted us to be happy. We have a baby, and that's all that matters. I hope you know what you're doing. Your secret is safe with me, but trust me, it will come out eventually, and it's going to hurt all of you." Monica signed. She wasn't going to risk her family's happiness over one little indiscretion. She was determined to keep her secret and make sure John never found out that Ethan wasn't his baby. Unfortunately, Monica had no idea about the cameras and the fact that John liked checking in on them during the day. As fate would have it, he tuned in right when Monica was having that strange conversation with her mother. The following days were a blur of sleepless nights and stolen moments of pure, unadulterated love as she gazed at her son's perfect face. John, however, seemed withdrawn, a pensive crease etched between his brows. Monica couldn't figure out what was happening with her husband. She tried talking to him, but he kept blaming everything on his heavy workload and sleepless nights, as he often got up to help with the baby. The truth, however, was that John had hired a private investigator to get to the bottom of the strange conversation Monica had had with her mother. He desperately tried not to jump to conclusions, but deep down, he already knew what had happened. A week later, the private investigator was ready to give John his report. John's worst nightmare became true. Ethan wasn't his biological son. About a year ago, Monica went to visit her mother in her hometown. She stayed there for a week and didn't seem to have much to tell about that visit. But apparently, it was much more eventful than she was willing to admit. It turned out that she'd met up with her high school sweetheart, Tom, several times, and had cheated on John with him. The kicker, however, was that Tom had exactly the same kind of mole Ethan had on his hand. John couldn't believe it. He didn't want to believe it. So he did the only thing he could think of. He got a DNA test. The next 2 days were the longest in John's life. He couldn't stand Monica's constant attempts to figure out what was wrong with him, so he got a hotel room and pretended to go on a business trip just so he wouldn't have to deal with her. When the test results came back, John's world was shattered. He wasn't Ethan's biological father. His heart seemed to have broken into a million little pieces. He loved Ethan, and he didn't want to lose him, regardless of his DNA. But after everything Monica had done, he couldn't fathom the idea of spending the rest of his life with her. After a night of heavy drinking, John did the only smart thing he could do. He called a lawyer. He laid out everything as it was, including his intentions to stay in Ethan's life as his dad. Together, they came up with a plan. John provided that lawyer with access to his PI's report and home cameras, and the lawyer set to work. A week later, Monica was completely blindsided as she got served with divorce papers, and to make things worse, he was also suing her for custody of their son. Unfit mother, the words on the page seemed to mock her. John was painting her as an emotionally unstable woman who couldn't be trusted to raise a child. Bursting into tears, she called her mother. "I need a lawyer," Monica said before telling her mom everything that happened. Monica was hoping that she could use the fact that Ethan wasn't John's biological son to her advantage, but it turned out that since John's name was on Ethan's birth certificate, John was his legal father. Thus, unless his biological father wanted to sue for custody, and Monica definitely didn't want to get him involved, this information could actually only harm Monica's case. John, however, used it all to his advantage. He exposed Monica as a cheater. He used the conversation she had with her mother to show her intent to lie to him. Moreover, he put together a video of her worst moments as a new mother to make her look emotionally unstable. The custody hearing was a truly brutal affair. In the end, the judge ruled in John's favor, granting him full custody with weekend visitation rights for Monica. The courtroom lights seemed to dim as the world around Monica dissolved into a haze of disbelief and despair. John, his face devoid of any emotion, walked out with Ethan, leaving Monica a shattered shell, clutching a piece of paper that felt more like a death certificate than a visitation agreement. The following weeks were a living nightmare. Monica clung to the precious hours she had with Ethan, showering him with love, her heart breaking a little more each time she had to leave him. John, distant and cold, remained a stranger in their once happy home. Neither Monica nor John could comprehend how their life turned into this nightmare. And although they were both happy to have Ethan, John couldn't forgive Monica for how they got him, and Monica couldn't forgive him for taking Ethan away. All they could do now was learn to live in this new reality and hope that once the wounds had healed a bit, they'd be able to be civil and put their son's needs above all else in their lives.